What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
Guys, I don't know about you, but since the exciting, interesting times, I have been ordering just about everything to my home. Stores no longer exist in my brain. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at if none of that happened, and what if all mail delivery and postal service stopped?
I bought most of my stuff online before the pandemic, except for like groceries and stuff, but I started to shift to delivery more for that.
Yeah, I was dabbling with the grocery delivery services. I mean, we're all in Boston, a pretty major city, so it works pretty well out here doing the grocery delivery. So I've been liking it. It just saves you a whole bunch of, for me, it saves me a whole bunch of time. Just you spend 20 minutes on the couch picking things out as opposed to 2 hours in the actual grocery store finding things.
Right.
There's pros and cons. I still go to the store even now occasionally for specific things. Usually if I'm like, I just need to buy some amount of food, I don't know what I want yet. If I don't have a good plan.
I can't think of the last time I was in a store.
The first store I went to after the long break was actually a Best Buy of all places when Sarah got a new laptop, and that was a weird experience because not only had I not been in a store for so long, it was also I hadn't been in a Best Buy in 5 years because why would you ever go to Best Buy?
I mean, pretty much everything I buy is just on Amazon, and it's been like that for even before the pandemic.
Yeah, it's wild, but we're gonna have to talk about now if there was no Amazon at all.
I would be sad.
Well, I guess they would have their 5 brick and mortar stores would still exist.
They have more than that, didn't they? I guess they have bookstores.
I guess they also have all the Whole Foods now too. I don't know how many brick and mortar stores Amazon has. It seems out of their business model. But anyway, just to help clarify a little bit what we mean with all mail and delivery postal service stop, we're talking about all the major carriers, USPS, UPS, FedEx, etc. And we're including both, physical, letter mail and packages as all those services stopped. So I'll go ahead and start us off. Kind of what I wanted to look into is that once we take away the mail system, people are still going to need to get things places, and they're still going to want to order things to their house. So the natural reaction to that would just be, okay, we're going to just start doing that ourselves, or hiring other people to do it for us, kind of, doing small-scale mail service, without the giant carriers. And of course, what we lose is the large-scale delivery models that the Postal Services use. So could we keep up with the demand for packages ourselves if we abandoned the big postal services? So, of course, the first question is, how many... I kind of ignored letters, and part of the reason is almost, a good half of all letter deliveries are business advertisements. And so we don't really need those. And most of things that are in a letter could be done in an email if, we came into this hypothetical situation. So I really want to focus on packages because you can't email a package.
You wouldn't email a package. Sorry, that was, I just had to make the joke. Anyway, continue.
For anyone who wasn't watching a whole bunch of movies in the 90s, that was the old ad of when
you wouldn't steal a car.
Or no, you wouldn't download a car, yeah.
Yeah, against pirating music and shows and everything was big back then, so they were like, you wouldn't download a car. And I couldn't help but think, yeah, my 12-year-old self was like, absolutely I would if I could get a car through LimeWire. But, now I could. If I have a 3D printer, I could download and print a whole car, one 6-inch by 6-inch section at a time. All right, back to what I was doing here. Packages. How many packages? So the ones I counted, the big 4, USPS, UPS, FedEx, and Amazon. The one who delivers the most packages, actually USPS, does 7.5 billion packages a year. UPS does 5.8 billion. FedEx does 3, and Amazon is approaching FedEx with 2.5 billion packages. They're now self-delivering a lot of their stuff. So totaling those up, that's 18.8 billion packages delivered a year, or 51.5 million packages a day. That's a lot of packages. And there's some really optimized math behind getting you your 2-day delivery. It's actually quite a deep rabbit hole. I'm not going to go into any of like the back end stuff, but if you're interested in it, you can kind of start out by checking out why the UPS trucks only make right turns is kind of a famous example of how they optimize. They do a lot of crazy stuff like live tracking for accidents reports and things, and all these big systems in place to create these efficiencies, because every mile they saves them some ungodly amount of money when you're delivering at a national scale. But let's look at the kind of the end result of how efficient the UPS is, because UPS gave me some pretty good numbers. UPS delivers 16 million packages a day out of that 51.5. So they do quite a good chunk of it. They do this with a fleet of 55,000 trucks. That's not that many. If you just kind of divide that out, each truck then is delivering 291 packages a day. And if you assume a 8-hour workday, that's 36 packages an hour, or delivering a single package every 1.64 minutes. That's insane. Also, it didn't sound quite right to me, so I double-checked. Right. And the UPS specifically reports that a typical driver on a shift will deliver an average of 120 packages a day, which is a package every 4 minutes, which is still insane.
Yeah.
4 minutes is like delivering a package to a new place. It's wild. And a big attribution to that is all this crazy optimization math they're doing. My favorite efficiency fact that from what they had is that there's like a regulation that the truck is loaded so that the UPS driver will not have to move more than 30 inches to grab the next package for delivery, which I don't even quite understand how that works, but it's in there. It's in their stat sheet.
I want to see like their experiments for doing this. Just having some guy like reach into a truck and like measuring it.
They get a guy with 30-inch arms to make sure that
yeah,
which I guess is about an arm length, like
30
inches.
feet? Less than 3.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5.
They chose that for a reason.
It's all coming together.
They just arbitrarily pick 30 inches.
Yeah. So they're doing 120 packages a day. How would we do? And actually, I think a good comparison point, what I used here, is the main mode of delivery that we do as individuals is food delivery. If you're going to have someone who's like moderately practiced at it. So I got into the data for Uber Eats about how many deliveries they'll do kind of during the rush hour, assuming there's a high demand for packages and you don't have to wait for, things to pop up. During peak times, a Uber Eats driver averages 2 to 3 deliveries per hour, which you may notice is not exactly a package every 4 minutes. And I don't think you're going to do much better than that, because one of the big things that UPS has going for is that's delivering all the packages, so it can go, one house, its neighbor, its neighbor, its neighbor, its neighbor. If we're split up doing it individually, we're not going to be able to do that. We're still going to have to go to whatever store to the house, and we're not going to get a much higher delivery count. So rather than those 55,000 trucks to deliver those 16 million packages, to do those same amount, we need 800,000 drivers just due to lost efficiency. And if we want to deliver all the 51.5 million packages, we're going to need 2.5 million delivery drivers.
Is that in the US or?
Yeah, sorry. This is US numbers. I did US instead of global just because there's a lot better information for the US, and instead of trying to convert it out into global scale. The one caveat I will say is that China is responsible for like 3 in 5 packages globally,
Whoa.
which is kind of crazy because, yeah, China is very big, but they're only, 1 in 8 people. 1 in 8 people are creating 3 in 5 packages, which is pretty crazy. So anyway, even that 2.57 million delivery drivers number kind of just assumes an 8-hour workday and 7 days a week. So I want to see how many people you'd actually be hiring, like how many people would be delivery drivers. So first off, take off 7 days a week, make it 5 days a week, add in a month of vacation each year for vacation and sick time, and we're up to 4 million drivers needed. We're going to need some overhead too, because if you're going to manage if so many people are going to be in the industry, it's going to be managed by somebody. I tacked on a 30% workforce for overhead managed, etc. UPS's is actually 27%, so it should be roughly close. We probably need a little more based on how split up it is, but I left it at 30 and put it all together. That's 5.1 million people working in just deliveries. This is compared to the current amount of people working in the Postal Service, 607,000. So nearly 10 times as many. We need nearly 10 times as many people.
We're assuming that we won't get more efficient as we go.
Well, it's kind of tough because unless you literally reinvent the UPS, you're never going to get that efficiency again, because the only reason you can be so efficient is you're delivering to all the addresses and you can just go door to door to door to door to door to door down the same block.
I imagine it'd be pretty chaotic in the beginning, at least.
Yeah, like I'll say this, a UPS truck doesn't drive more than 5 miles away from its origin.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing a bit more than that. And you're not picking it all up from the same distribution facility. You'd be like working for, a specific company probably.
Right. So you're assuming that you're going off of like an Uber Eats system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So with this 5.1 million, it actually wouldn't be the largest like career sector in the country at that number. There'd still be 3 higher ones. The highest being local schools is actually the highest career sector in the country with 7.5 million people employed. The next one being local government, which I was kind of surprised about. 5.89 million people work in local government.
There's a lot of bureaucracy. A lot of bureaucracy.
And that doesn't count federal or state government. That's just local government. Full service restaurants are the third one, just above our 5.1 at 5.53 million people. So we'd be in fourth place with 5.1 million people working in deliveries, which is the same amount as all federal and state government employees combined, which is just kind of puts it all into scale. Like, it's not the biggest, but it is an F ton of people. So kind of overarching, can we replace the mail system with just us people? Yes, just it's kind of inefficient. And I just have a couple more notes here. When you look into delivery systems, you hear a lot like about the last mile problem. And this is the notion that it's really easy for a company to deliver your package very quickly to like your local distributor. And the hard part from a company standpoint is getting the last couple miles to your specific address. It's really easy to get a whole bunch of boxes to Manhattan. It's hard to get the boxes in Manhattan to the individual apartments.
Just like whenever I'm driving somewhere, it's easy to stay on the highway for 3 hours. It's hard to know where to go after I get off the highway.
Right.
Exactly. But what we're going to have is almost the opposite, which is we're going to have a first mile problem, because without our big distributor network, it's suddenly a lot trickier to get your delivery big distances. Again, this void will start naturally getting filled by companies who set up, planes, trains, and trucks to grab a bunch of other people's packages and bring them to a major hub and start recreating that system. But until that starts to become established, and there's no guarantee it'll be established at the same scale it was originally, it's going to be tough to get something from, California to New York. Like, someone's going to have to bring it there, and who knows how many other packages they're going to be bringing.
Uber Eats has a limit on your distance, so the system
I keep
isn't
trying
built for that.
I keep trying to order from my favorite place in LA, and they just won't deliver to me. It's insane.
I don't know if normal Uber, I think there's a limit with how far you can travel with normal Uber.
I think you can do state to state. I think you could get an Uber from Boston to New York. It's just going to be hard to find a driver who accepts the thing.
Yeah.
I've seen stories about people who have taken multi-state Uber rides before, but I think it is something where it's tricky and expensive.
Yeah. I don't really have a solution here, again, besides just waiting for it to get established, or, hey, it's just going to be very expensive and impractical to do long-distance shipping.
You just hire a dude to take it there, basically.
But we're actually also still going to have a last-mile problem, in addition to our first-mile problem. Because, we're much better at the execution of the last mile, because it's just a matter of driving things around. But there's one aspect that's going to likely become a victim of capitalism, and that's rural areas. So one of the reason that USPS is struggling to remain not bankrupt is that they are obligated to provide mail delivery to every single address in the US at a flat rate. And this includes really rural areas that are super inefficient to get to. So they have to deliver to places that are, 50, 60 miles from their hub for the same rate that they do, local town delivery. And all the non-federal delivery companies, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, they actually rely on USPS to deliver to these rural communities because it doesn't make financial sense for them to do it. And it's not just a matter of them not being able to compete with the flat rate. It's just that these communities tend to be poorer. And if they had to pay a competitive delivery price, they wouldn't be able to afford to get delivery at all. So it's not even so much like, oh, USPS priced us out. It's they just wouldn't get deliveries and they couldn't afford it. So this is kind of a problem that's tricky to solve, because this is a real life problem that USPS is having, is that they're obviously operating at a loss because all these other companies or private companies are sucking up the profitable things and they can't raise their rates and they keep having to operate at a loss. And there's really not an alternative of not doing it, because, you know, it becomes a real problem when the deliveries to these rural companies, you know, rural communities includes like medicine and things that people actually need. So you could have some good Samaritans doing it, but again, that's going to be another tricky problem to solve. And then my last one here is the lots and lots of miles problem, which is international shipping. So I'm not sure if international shipping counts as like mail delivery. It's almost simpler for things to go overseas because it's such a hassle to get something across the ocean that you're gonna have big companies with big transport ships bringing things over. But it's gonna be even more hellishly expensive than it is now to do any kind of international shipping.
I mean, I can't Uber Eats from Europe.
Yeah, you can't Uber Eats from Europe. So yeah, it's going to be inefficient. You got a first mile problem, you got a last mile problem, and you got a lots and lots and lots of mile problem.
So what you're saying is just that the miles are a problem, basically, right? Like that's kind of the end result here.
Miles are a problem, yes.
So you're saying we should start using metric.
The big problem with delivery is that things have to go from one place to another.
Right. Surprisingly, that's the tricky part.
Solution: stop delivering.
Yeah, revive the brick and mortar stores is the key, I guess. But Ben, what did you do here?
So I wound up looking into crime, actually. So you may have sort of heard at some point, you know, just in passing about the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, but at least I certainly did not realize exactly what that entails. And the U.S. Postal Inspection Service is actually the country's first and oldest federal law enforcement agency. It was created by Benjamin Franklin when he appointed William Goddard as the first surveyor of the American Postal Service in 1775. So before we were even technically a country, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service was created. And back then, the reason for this was just that the mail was kind of the only way to do any kind of long-distance communication, and almost more importantly, any kind of long-distance money transfer. So this is before even, you know, wire transfers or anything. So if you were sending money, large amounts, small amounts, whatever, it had to go through the mail. And so most of any kinds of crimes we were seeing, you know, when you think of you know, in Westerns, stagecoach robberies, train robberies, all that sort of stuff, that's all mail robbery. So that's what the service was founded to stop. And it was such a problem originally that in 1972, Congress actually imposed the death penalty for mail theft.
What?
Yeah, well, because so much of it was just straight up robbery. And it, at the time, made sense. That actually wasn't removed. I couldn't find I found it at one point, I didn't write it down. I couldn't find the actual year. But it wasn't removed until the late 1800s, actually. Although earlier in the 1800s, they did scale it back to only being the death penalty for a second offense. So, you know, you had that going for you. If you accidentally snagged a postcard or something, you didn't just immediately die. But yeah, no, like mail crime was a very serious problem.
I will say, whenever my package is stolen, I'm like, the appropriate punishment is death. Whoever took my dang package, God, I hope they die.
Exactly. And yeah, and the Postal Inspection Service has actually been involved in a lot of really high-profile crimes. One of the coolest ones I found is that they were actually the ones who busted the original Ponzi scheme. So the way the first you know, the namesake Ponzi scheme happened. So in 1906, the International Universal Postal Union created these international reply coupons that were basically a way for people in different countries to send return postage to each other. So the idea was, if you sent someone something in another country, you could send one of these coupons with them and they could exchange it for postage in their country. And there were regulations that set the rate of exchange there. But after World War I, there was so much currency devaluation in Europe that those rates all got all out of whack. And this man in Boston named Charles Ponzi realized that because those rates were still based on pre-war prices, if you bought those coupons in a lot of European nations and brought them back to the US, they were worth more than what you paid for them over there. So his original plan was to actually do this, right? To actually figure out a way to buy these international reply coupons at a large scale overseas, then bring it back and sell them in the US. And the way he got his funding was convince the amounts of people that if they gave him money, he would, get them 50% profit within 45 days. And then this, of course, just turned into a pyramid scheme where more people came in, he used their money to pay back the initial investors, and then those people were really happy, and that brought in even more people. And pretty quickly, the postal inspectors actually started looking into this because it seemed impossible for him to be making as much money as he was. And they found out that that was definitely true because there weren't enough sales worldwide of the international reply coupons to support the amount of money he was giving back. So, but what was funny, and then this was under their jurisdiction because all this was happening through the mail because this was, the early 1900s. But they couldn't actually do anything about it at first because no one was complaining yet because he just kept getting more investors. And, we don't know exactly how long he could have gotten away with it, but he actually screwed himself over. There was a newspaper article published that sort of started, questioning what he was doing. And then he was, he's like, okay, I got to get out in front of this and, reassure people and keep this train going. So he called a meeting with federal, state, and local authorities and basically asked them to audit him. And at the same time, he offered himself to stop taking investments while they were auditing him to make it simpler. And this, of course, the news of this got out, and then all of the investors panicked because they thought he was going to get shut down. And then they all came in and tried to get their money back. He hadn't had the money, and they were able to charge him with fraud. So that's how the first Ponzi scheme happened, which I thought was very fun.
just like call your own bluff that wasn't even made. Bluff and then call your own bluff.
Right. Well, I don't understand what his plan was. Like, clearly he wasn't actually doing the thing. I don't know how he expected this to go for himself, but I mean, whatever. Who knows? But
I mean, was it technically illegal? I guess it was, but was it actually illegal what he was doing at the time?
He was committing fraud because he was not actually, as far as I could tell, he was not actually doing the investment he said he was at the scale he said he was.
Gotcha.
Right. So he was still defrauding people through the mail. So that was just a fun one that yes, was stopped by the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Other high-profile crimes they've done as well. They've investigated as well. They actually interviewed Lee Harvey Oswald about the JFK assassination because he mail-ordered the rifle he used. They hunted down the Unabomber who did mail bombs for a couple of decades before he got caught as Captain Montana. Most recently, I don't know if you remember when Steve Bannon was arrested. Steve Bannon, the former strategist of Donald Trump, super racist, white supremacist guy, has a face like a melting wax figure. That dude. They're actually the ones who arrested him under mail fraud claims because of an organization he was involved with. And so just overall, every year they arrest, 1,500 people for mail fraud, around 3,000 for mail theft, 2,500 for drug trafficking. And they also investigate and arrest people for robberies and burglaries of post offices and assaults and threats to postal employees. And I'm sure what you're saying in your head right now is, oh, I see where this is going. Ben's going to say that we're going to get rid of the mail and then this service is going to go away and all this crime's going to happen. But the thing is, all this crime requires the mail for it to happen. So actually what's going to happen is that all of this crime is just going to go away because the mail isn't there anymore.
That's
great.
Which is right. That's good. That's a good thing. But these numbers aren't huge, right? This isn't, obviously they do a lot of important stuff and they do stop, relevant crimes and things, but they're not operating at the scale of just, regular police offices or the FBI or something, right? So the question is, are there any places where getting rid of the mail would actually make a big impact on some kind of bad crime? And the answer is opioids. So the opioid epidemic in the US has been sort of a hot button thing for the last few years. There's been a drastic increase in use and deaths from mostly synthetic opioids, usually fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid it's approved for treating really severe pain in usually advanced cancer patients. It's 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. So very, very strong narcotic. And most of the deaths coming from it are from illegally produced fentanyl that's usually mixed with like heroin or cocaine. And sort of for an idea of the scale, the deaths from synthetic opioids were, I couldn't get an exact number. I was trying to sort of read it off a graph, but it was under like 5,000 in 2013. And by 2019, it's up to 36,000. And that 36,000 is about half of the overdose deaths just overall from any drugs in 2019.
Wow.
So obviously a big issue that is still an increasing rate that those overdose deaths from synthetic opioids. And there was a DEA intelligence report on how fentanyl is coming into the U.S., and the vast majority of it is just being shipped in from China. And we're not talking about, shipping in big crates of it. Most of them, the average weight of the packages of fentanyl were under 1 kilogram. And most of that was just 90% pure fentanyl. And even the fentanyl that isn't being just shipped in directly, usually it's being produced in Mexico with materials sourced from either China, or now it's starting to be produced in India as well. But it's being shipped to Mexico and then brought in from there. So I guess the overall takeaway is that in addition to all the other mail crimes happening, I guess without mail, we're going to solve the opioid crisis.
Yay!
Oh, so that's a positive.
So there we go. That's a cool thing. It's harder to, buy your replacement water bottle lids or whatever you buy on Amazon. But hey, no more opioids. So that's cool.
I didn't think you'd be able to spin this positive.
I did not either, man. It took me a while. But yeah, that's what I did. So Chris, what'd you do?
So when I was trying to think of what I wanted to do, I was kind of like looking at what important things I get in the mail, specifically like letters and stuff, because as Marcus had mentioned, like a majority of letters like in the mail, not like packages, but letters, are just like business marketing. And I couldn't really think of anything because like I don't check my mail that often. When I do, it is just an advertisement. I don't get very many important things in there. So like most of the important stuff I get is through email. Like there's a big push to go paperless with all these companies, and lots of people have internet. So like it's pretty reliable. But the thing is, not everyone has internet. And there are a few places that don't have, like, they have internet, but it's not reliable. So I wanted to look at, like, who are these people? How many people are there? And according to the FCC, there are 14.5 million people in the U.S. that don't have access to high-speed internet. And a lot of these people are in, like, rural areas or, like, tribal lands. Basically just, like, remote areas, isolated areas with, some of them have, like, challenging terrain or, like, lower incomes. And all this stuff makes it difficult to provide reliable broadband to these areas. So I'm thinking, okay, remote, isolated, challenging terrain. And then it popped into my head, the North Pole and Santa. Santa is not going to get letters anymore. Or Santa doesn't have internet, and he's not going to get letters, so he has no way to get a replacement for the letters.
Now, is your premise that Santa is real and does need the letters?
And does not have internet? You're saying that Santa doesn't, like, watch Netflix for the other 11 months of the year? Like,
I mean, I'll get into that later, maybe.
Okay, we'll see.
Tease, little tease. So I wanted to focus on, like, Christmas in general. And Christmas cards are actually a pretty big, like, they're one of the bigger things that get mailed. They are dwindling in popularity more recently, but there are still a lot. So there are 6.5 billion greeting cards in general, like just general greeting cards in 2019 that were purchased. And the largest category of that is Christmas cards at 1.6 billion in 2019. But like what's more important to Santa, obviously, is the letters that he gets from the kids, because that's how he knows what to get, what to send them, and what to leave under their Christmas tree or under their stocking or whatever. So how many letters does Santa actually get? I knew I wanted to look at this. And letters sent to Santa are sent through the USPS, the U.S. Postal Service. And the USPS actually has a program that handles specifically Santa's letters. It's called Operation Santa. So I went to their website, and they had a little fact thing, and that one of their questions was how many, I forget exactly how they worded it, but like how many kids and families are affected by this, or like does this benefit? And it just said countless. They didn't give a number. So useful for me.
Maybe because this isn't so much a real thing, Chris.
Or they just literally didn't count them, and it's countless. I don't know. But regardless, it's a lot. But this got me more interested in this actual program, so I looked more into it. And Operation Santa started in 1912, and the first time it was nationwide was actually in 2019. It's pretty recent. I think in 2017 they went online, and then 2019 they went nationwide. And the process of this, like the way that this works is they process Santa's letters, they post them on their website or on their app or something, and then volunteers can look at the letters, read them, adopt one of the letters, and then choose to buy the gift that the kid is asking for and send it to them, theoretically from Santa. So the kid sends a letter out to Santa and they get a package from Santa, and it's nice.
I didn't know there was a fulfillment on Santa letters, like in any capacity.
Yeah, I mean, it's all volunteers, so like random people, anyone can do it. It's not like the actual postal service is sending gifts, but it's still a thing.
Do you think that causes confusion, like in households where like it'll be like, why did Santa get me 2 of these? Like if your daughter asks for, I want this Barbie doll. And
Well, I imagine the parent would know that they sent a letter to this program and would not get them the Barbie doll.
But if I was a parent and my kid wrote a letter for Santa, and I was like, oh, I can send it to this Santa, I could give it to the Letters for Santa thing. That's cool. I would do it without expecting to get what was submitted.
Well, you have to go through like a specific process to get it into this program. So like you have to
it's not
address
just
it to
any
the right
like
address.
It's not like, oh, letters addressed to Santa that gets auto sorted into the program. It's like you have to apply for it and actually know what the heck it is before.
So you don't have to
Got
apply
it.
for
Not
it.
apply, but like you have to do some amount of steps that you're aware of what's happening.
Yeah, so they specifically said on their website that if you just address it to Santa or like something general, which happens all the time, then it just gets processed as unmailable. But they provided 2 mailing addresses for you to do to actually get into this program. And one of them was in a town called Santa Claus, Indiana. Apparently there's a town named Santa Claus in Indiana.
Why not? I mean, there's stupider town names out there.
And then there's a town called North Pole in Alaska. So you can mail it to either one of these places and it'll get into the program. I was just a little more interested in these locations, so I looked into Santa Claus, Indiana, just to kind of figure out why they're called that. And in 1856, they applied for a post office under the name of Santa Fe. And what happened is their application got rejected and came back with a message saying to choose a different name other than Santa Fe. And then there was some sort of process that happened, like discussions. The wiki quote that I found was, the process of settling upon the name of Santa Claus has been lost to legend. So no one knows, it's a legend.
A very, very, very dramatic way to put, I don't know, and I don't feel like trying to find out.
Yeah. So that's Santa Claus, Indiana. For Alaska, Salvation Army and the Alaskan Air National Guard actually work together with this program. They use a C-130 Hercules, which is a military transport aircraft, to fly gifts to remote locations in Alaska. It's just an example of this program in play. But those are exactly the types of places that wouldn't have good internet either. Just remote locations in Alaska. So yeah, so kids can't get their letters to the North Pole anymore. If the USPS didn't exist, then this program wouldn't exist and they wouldn't be able to do it. So my next question was, would they be able to just replace it with email? Because like you could theoretically just email Santa and then he could send you something. But I wasn't actually sure if there was internet at the North Pole or not, so I looked more into that. And there are approximately 4 million people that live in the Arctic Circle, and getting them high-speed internet has been historically challenging. There have been a few attempts at doing it, and some places do have like internet, but it's not very fast or reliable. But the most promising program or attempt to do this was in 2019. A company called OneWeb announced their plans to launch a low-orbit satellite system that would enable them to provide high-speed internet to everyone in the world, including the Arctic. And they plan to have the system fully online by 2027. Now, this sounded promising, this article that I read was from 2019. It was pretty recent. So I looked more into it, and it turns out in between 2019 and 2020, they launched 74 satellites out of their planned 47,000 plus satellites. And then they went bankrupt in March. So okay, that sucks. But then apparently they got a huge investment. They exited bankruptcy in November. So they received a $1 billion investment from the UK government and a company based in India called Bharti Global. So they exited bankruptcy and they tried to continue with their plan, but they reduced their plan drastically. So they reduced it from 47,000 satellites to 6,000 satellites. But they still plan on doing it as we speak. As far as I know, they're still doing it. Right now, they plan on having 648 satellites by the end of 2022. So reliable internet at the North Pole is potentially possible in the future, but it's not a thing right now. It'll probably take at least a few more years. And the kids know this. The kids are tech savvy. They know that there's no internet in the North Pole. They're not going to believe that you can email Santa. The plan's not going to work. So, yeah, it's not a reliable substitute for mailing letters. If the mail stopped, then kids would stop believing in Santa and Christmas would die. I brought down your positivity, Ben.
Man.
Wow.
How was my answer involving the opioid crisis more hopeful than yours about Santa Claus? This is a banner day in this podcast.
What if can't you just add Santa has the magic router to the lore?
Nope, the science doesn't work.
I have dealt with a lot of routers. There's no such thing as a magic router.
It's only terrible opioid routers.
Yep.
All right, and on that positive note, I guess it's time for a Would You Rather question. Chris.
Yes.
Would you rather Gotham or Atlantis be a real place?
Isn't Gotham crime-ridden and super dangerous?
Yeah. Atlantis is the one that's underwater.
But theoretically, Atlantis, in its prime, has ways to... Or is Atlantis for, underwater people, or is it for normal people to live underwater?
The lore kind of varies.
I think Atlanteans are technically a different... Are they a different, species, I guess? I guess they'd have to be, huh?
I've seen, there's different depictions of Atlantis that range from literal mermaids to, people that, to regular people, and also, an in-between of, hey, here's a, different evolutionary branch of people that are usually better than us, but,
All right. I'm going to assume they're talking about DC Universe Atlantis if they're bringing up Gotham as the other side of it. And in that case, Atlanteans are a different race than humans.
In that case, it's impossible to live there, so Gotham.
Oh, I don't know if I want to live in either of these places.
Oh, I guess
right,
it's not asking if you want to live there, it's just asking if you want to be real.
Yeah.
I mean, where would Gotham be?
Jersey?
I think canonically, isn't Gotham kind of based on Chicago? It's kind of a weird mix of Chicago and New York City.
Maybe, I don't know. Well, it's not New York City because Metropolis.
Oh, Metropolis is New York City.
Yeah.
So I think Gotham is Chicago-ish.
Do we just add it to a state that doesn't have a major city?
Congrats, Montana. You did it.
Gotham, Montana. Yeah.
Yep.
It's got a place. It is a hub, but it's its own separate hub. It's not we're putting it next to New York or Boston.
It's not just intersecting Chicago.
Okay. I'm trying to think of if it would be a place I would want to visit, and that my gut reaction is no.
So are we saying that they are bringing along if Gotham pops into existence, does Bruce Wayne live is Bruce Wayne / Batman
the major
there?
themes? Yeah, I think Gotham has Batman and the Joker and the key characters. I'm not going to drag in the tangential universe,
right.
the whole. It doesn't bring the whole
DC universe with it, right?
Yeah, it doesn't bring the whole DC universe with it, but the major players like Batman and the people whose base stories are set in Gotham exist.
All right.
So Atlantis will have Aquaman.
I think that actually makes my decision for me. So I don't know if you want me to go into my thoughts
Yeah, that's the whole point. We're on a podcast.
You're right.
Keep
This
it
is an audio
private.
medium. So, okay, if that's the case, the stuff that's just focused on Gotham is going to be pretty Gotham focused. That was kind of redundant, but you know what I mean, right?
I don't really know what you mean.
So, okay, let me do it from the Atlantis point of view. There are factions in Atlantis that believe that Atlanteans should rule the world. There is no one in Gotham that thinks that like, you know, there aren't any major... All the criminals in Gotham are much more low level than like the, you know, effectively eco-terrorists that we'd get if Atlantis popped into existence.
Yeah, the votes in Gotham are for anarchy. They don't even think Gotham should rule itself. Never
Right.
mind the world.
Exactly. They're like crime lords.
I don't really know that much about Aquaman's villains.
The big one is Namor. Hold on, is that it? Namor? Nope. Wait, no. Namor is Marvel. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Like, I didn't even see the most recent Aquaman movie. The only real Aquaman knowledge I have is tangentially based on Mermaid Man.
That's great.
I mean, we did a whole episode on Aquaman, Chris. We did all of Aquaman's powers.
Yeah, but that was his powers. That wasn't his lore. We specifically ignored his lore.
Aquaman fought Nazis, so that's cool. There's apparently the human flying fish, which is pretty much just what it says on the tin.
Which villain are you thinking that wants to take over the world?
Hold on, let's see. Is it Ocean Master? Is this the dude? Is this the guy? Hold on. What does he actually do? He wants the throne of Atlantis. Yeah, blah blah, cool.
That doesn't affect me.
That doesn't affect you. Man, he kind of just wants Atlantis, huh? Well then. I could have sworn... Oh, wait, hold on. Wait. Okay, yeah. Orm resurfaced several years later under a new identity of Orm Marius and become the criminal known as Ocean Master. He used cutting-edge technology to create what appear to be natural disasters. He attempted to use this technology to hold the world for ransom. So he basically would make big natural disasters and try to get money out of like governments and shit.
Okay.
That's not great.
Yeah, that's not great. It sounds like there aren't that many of them like that, though. This one guy is like this.
But there is, to like, part of it, there is a like half magical race of beings that get pulled into existence as opposed to just like a bunch of weird, crazy people in Gotham.
Yeah, Gotham there's going to be a lot of criminals, like a lot, but they're all going to be very self-contained to
Right.
Gotham.
Yeah, it might increase, like, yeah, like the stuff that gets out of Gotham might be like crime tech, like nasty drugs or weird weapons that might come out of Gotham and spread their way into our lives if we don't live in Gotham. Atlantis has like the upside of it being a cool underwater city, but yeah, having super villains is a problem with superpowers because that creates lots and lots of destruction.
Right. Gotham coming in doesn't create any actual superpowers, but Atlantis 100% does.
But even if you do, here's the thing, even if you do, like, I'm just kind of thinking about the impact on my life, because I feel like, for me, I'm not going to live in either of these places, so it's really just going to be, like, what's on the news and what makes it to my life. And I feel like the Gotham news and the Atlantis news would be about equally interesting if you wanted to follow it. Like, it'd be like, oh, cool, neat. Gotham is going to be harder for it to make its way into my life. Atlanteans could, especially if you have, like, either a super race or, you know, if Atlanteans are just better at shit than we are.
They are.
You know, they're going to come out of the ocean and take our gerbs.
They could have a way to, like, visit, like, they could have a tourism program thing where, like, normal people go down there. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be the one cool bit.
Yeah, but they also occasionally have to fight giant jellyfish, and that means that we'd occasionally have to fight giant jellyfish.
Well, we're the tourists. We don't have to do that.
Also, wait, what's this I'm seeing now about an alien dragon? Wait. Hold on.
Ben just casually reading the entirety of the Aquaman series while we do our podcast.
That's kind of what yeah.
Like, if tourism is big in Atlantis, you're never going to want to visit Gotham. Like, tourism in Gotham isn't going to be a thing.
I mean, people visit Chicago. It's just Chicago with weird clowns around.
I imagine Gotham being a way worse than Chicago.
It's not like a war zone. It's a city. It's just, you know.
It's a city, but it's, I don't know. From stuff that I know about Gotham, it's not a great place.
Well, you only see the crime reports. All you watch is when things go down. There's
That's
not too many
true.
comics on just Gotham, you know, on a regular ass Wednesday.
That is true.
Yeah, I've confirmed that there is also an alien dragon named Tiamat that Aquaman fights.
But that's not necessarily going to be in Atlantis when you're there.
But I mean, if we're saying that Aquaman comes, it only makes sense that Aquaman's villains come as well.
Yeah, but the ocean is a big place, and they can go to different places.
Okay,
It's like saying you won't go to the Caribbean because there's hurricanes sometimes.
Right, but hold on. I would
Someone's
like to point
keeping
out
tabs on Tiamat, right? Like it's not gonna be a surprise visit. It's gonna be like, oh, we see Tiamat within some number of miles. There's a Tiamat warning for this week. Maybe you rebook your vacation then.
my point is not that. My point is that adding Gotham adds some weird criminals. Adding Atlantis adds an alien dragon. We go from a bunch of criminals to a bunch of criminals plus some more weird ones versus no alien dragons to one alien dragon. That's a big increase in alien dragons.
An alien dragon that's contained to the water. I don't have to go to the water.
It's not contained to the water.
Oh.
All right. I think it's time to vote.
I also like that on Tiamat's page on the DC Wiki, it has alignment, bad. Marital status, single. Occupation, conqueror.
Oh my god. All right. Ben, your vote first. Yours is the most
I
obvious.
want Gotham, not Atlantis.
I actually agree with a lot of what Ben is saying, so I'm also going to go with I'd rather have Gotham.
Really? I thought you were going to go with Atlantis.
I usually like the story. It's one of those things where it's exciting, but I'm not like that excited to go to just like a cool underwater city. Like I'd be like, oh, that's cool. I could have gotten a similar experience going to like Italy or something. And the downsides are real downsides.
So I'm choosing Atlantis. I think that regardless, I mean, yes, there are going to be worse villains apparently, but like Gotham is a very depressing place. And as much as I would like Batman to be a real person, all the negative stuff that comes with Batman in Gotham, I don't like. And I feel like the overall like general feel of the cities, Atlantis is a more positive city than Gotham.
I guess it just depends on how you do the math for, whether Atlantis is a net positive or a net negative for existing. And Gotham is just a general mild net negative. Cool. So there's that. If you enjoyed the show today and want to show your support, leave us a review. It's great. It's easy. There's buttons all over the place on your apps and browsers and things to leave us a cool review with a shiny 5 golden stars and tell us how great you thought we were. So that's one way you can help the show. If you want to help more directly, of course, there is our Patreon, www.patreon.com/absurdhypotheticals, where you get access to additional episodes, our behind-the-scenes episodes that are potentially morphing into fireside chats. Lots of cool things going on back there, but you will have to listen to find out what that is.
Yeah, so the next one that's coming up, on April 5th, is it April? No, it's not April 5th. It's April 2nd, is not a behind-the-scenes. It's a fireside thing.
Yeah, there's good content there. Like if you want to find out what my favorite movie is, you gotta listen in.
Yeah, real firm answers on that one.
You tried to answer the question like, name one movie that I like.
Don't tell them they have to experience FOMO for them to put their dollar into the machine, Chris. That's how this works.
Yeah, come here as attempt to find out one movie Marcus likes.
Yeah. Anyway, to establish more FOMO, I'm going to tease our next week's episode right now. I do it all the time, but I'm going to do it again this time. So please join us next week where we answer the following question. Oh, it's a grab bag. We're going to answer a bunch of questions about homes.